Dune, the book versus the movie, next on Retro Serial. Hey everyone, welcome to Retro Serial. I'm your host DNC. I'm glad you could be joining me for this episode. On today's episode, we have YouTuber Thrashpondo Pons, and we are going to be talking about Dune, the book versus the movie, in anticipation of the new movie that's coming out shortly. But we're going to be talking about the old movie and the book, and some of the ways they agree, some of the ways they disagree, and all that good stuff. Now, before we get to that interview, please do me the honor of subscribing to my channel if you haven't already subscribed. It really means a lot to me if you would subscribe and hit that like button. If you want to know when these things come out, hit the bell notification and share it on your favorite social media. If you're listening to this on podcast form, please leave me a review, leave me a rating. It goes a long way to help us in the algorithms for what iTunes and Spotify recommend. So if you could do those things, that would be awesome. And one more thing before I launch into the interview here. If you are a podcaster out there, or you are a YouTuber out there, and you talk about the same kind of stuff I talk about, growing up Generation X, or things, anything surrounded Generation X, movies, TV, music, anything like that, and you are wanting to be on my program, please, I'm always looking for guests. I'm always looking for people to talk to and just have a good conversation about nostalgia and entertainment and the arts. So please follow the link below. I will leave you, in the link below, I will leave my email, and you can contact me there. Also, I will leave a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page if you want to donate to us. And I'm going to leave a link to the YouTube page as well, if you're listening to this on podcast. And I will leave a link to Thrashpondo Pons' YouTube page as well. If you could go over there and subscribe to his page, that would be awesome. So with all that in mind, let's go to the interview. All right, everyone. Well, we didn't get video on this one, but we have him on the way of phone. Now, I'm going to go ahead, as you can already tell, splice in a picture of this man's beautiful mug for everyone to see while he's talking. But I've got with me on the program, Thrashpondo Pons. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing awesome, Dr. Serial, and hello to all you people out there in YouTube land. Hey, we tried, huh?
Yeah, we did try, but you know, a lot of people listen to this only on audio because it's a podcast as well as a video cast, and so it won't affect that group of people at all. But we're going to be talking. We're going to be doing a new series, and my new series is going to be, you know, here and there. Not every time is going to be a new series, but I wanted to do this for a long time, talking about the book versus the movie, and just talking about the differences. And today we're going to be talking about Dune. But before we do that, let's get to know you a little bit better. Tell me a little bit, and you'd mind if I just call you Thrash or Thrashpondo, or how do you want to be called? What's your moniker?
I answered all my a lot of my friends call me Trash. Dave and the other friends call me TP. You call me it, I will answer to it.
Okay, just not late for dinner, right?
Precisely. I had a late lunch, so.
All right. Well, I had a late breakfast. So.
Oh, good.
Well,
let me guess, cereal.
No, no, you know, I haven't had cereal in ages, but I did used to have cereal for dinner for a long, long time. I mean, it was a popular item in my house. But let's tell everybody about your channel. You know, what you do over there, and why you started it. So, you know, pick it up anywhere. Tell us a little bit about your channel.
Sure. Wonderful. Well, this is kind of a rare gimmick you see on YouTube. You don't get this a lot. It's a nostalgia channel, and it's basically some very unpolished videos of me talking about some of my favorite things. I have a flair for old TV, music, science fiction, especially science fiction books, and movies and whatnot. And so what you'll find is me making recommendations to some forgotten classics. Because one of the things I've found as we move deeper and deeper into the 21st century, some of the old vintage 20th century stuff seems to have fallen through the cracks. And I'm trying to keep that spirit alive. So yeah, I like to introduce like the newer generations to stuff from the golden age.
Oh, the golden age. Well, I think
the golden age of sci-fi.
The golden age of sci-fi. I think everybody's kind of got a little bit different perspective on what the golden age is. What would you say the golden age is?
I myself, and you're right, I've had people refer to the golden age as H.G. Wells. I think of the golden age of science fiction as really the 50s. That was when science fiction was really, it was starting to be taken seriously as a genre. There was, don't get me wrong, there was plenty of pulp and lighthearted stuff, but you really started seeing some A-class pictures, some top-notch authors were really digging in, and they weren't just writing pulp novels. They were writing actual literature in a sci-fi setting. And that's something about science fiction that seems to fall through the cracks. I don't see science fiction as futuristic larks. It's a story set in any other time frame, just in this case, it's a futuristic setting. I mean, I've seen people do Shakespeare and do it set in the future or in a post-apocalyptic event. And that's what I say. I see it as just a different setting for any type of classic literature.
Yeah. Science fiction's great. I mean, I grew up on the science fiction movies. I wasn't really too into reading when I was a kid. Wasn't too into I had to read a lot for school, that's for sure. I did not read for leisurely activities. As I've said on this program before, devotees of this program will know I actually have a reading disability, so it's really hard for me to read. Yeah, but since audiobooks have come out and stuff like that, I've picked up on a lot more of the classics. And
yes.
Yeah, I'm really happy about audiobooks. And I've plowed
me too.
Yeah, I've plowed through a few of them on my own. Just wanted to read it and say that I read it, and so I read it. But it's just not as common for me. But now audiobooks are out, or you just have e-readers, that'll just read for you, and you can listen to a book. And that's
I like audiobooks. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I like audiobooks because you can listen to them on your car when you're on the road. When I'm actually doing things like when I'm doing my taxes or something, I can actually put one on and listen to it in the background. And I had read a study somewhere, believe it or not, some argue that the retention is greater when you listen to a book as opposed to reading it. There's something about the audio as opposed to the visual that makes it land in our heads. Probably because when we had stories read to us when we were children. So I'm actually a champion of audiobooks whenever possible.
That's good. And that's why this is brought to you by, no, I'm just kidding. I don't have any sponsors. That would be a great place to insert Audible or some ebook reader or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're out there and you want to sponsor this show, we are welcome to have you. I am more than welcome to take your money to promote a product that I do believe in. So, but today,
and likewise.
Yeah, likewise, Thrashpondo needs a sponsor as well. But today on the program, I wanted to talk about Dune. I wanted to do it. We kind of kicked around a few ideas. The first idea was just talking about video, our movie versus book. And then we said, well, let's narrow it down. And we narrowed it down to a genre. Then we narrowed it down to one book. And, the conversation might go in several different places. That's okay. But we are going to be talking about Dune. It's one of the few books that I've read for the most part, at least listened to on audio for the most part, and seen the movie. I saw the movie in '84. When did it come out? '86. I can't remember exactly. This is the kind of stuff I should have before I get on.
'84 leaped to mind. I think it was '84. It might have been '85. I was still in high school. In high school when it came out, so it had to have been. I would say '85 is a nice ballpark.
Yeah,
but
mid '80s,
but
mid '80s, of course.
Mid '80s, indeed.
It was an '80s movie,
course, and it was riding the crest of the sci-fi renaissance, triggered, of course, by Star Wars. The irony being, well, two things about Star Wars. One, many don't consider it science fiction. It's basically a samurai movie set in a galaxy far, far away. But another funny thing, and I actually reference this in my channel, if you don't mind a shameless plug, there are many similarities between Star Wars and Dune.
Let's start there. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. Well, right off the gate, I mean, not put too fine a put on it. Both of them are desert planets.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Let's look at a main character for a second. I'm not going to use Luke Skywalker. Everyone else likes to. I'm going to use Anakin Skywalker, good old Darth Vader, one of the best villains in science fiction history.
Yeah.
Compare him to Paul Atreides.
Okay.
Both of whom start off in this sort of, I don't know, I guess you would call it a quest for good. And then both of them end up getting stuck on a mission of revenge. And ultimately, in the course of fulfilling their destiny, both trigger off catastrophic wars.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good. Those are good enough.
Paul triggers off a jihad. And of course, the Clone Wars are directly the result of Darth Vader and his machinations. And then, if you want to skip ahead a couple movies, both of them end up having fraternal twins.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
I mean, Luke and Leia in Star Wars, and of course Leto too. And I can't think of the guy's name to save my life.
No, I've only read the first book, and it was not. I tried to reread it before we got to this program, and I got about halfway through it. So I'm kind of missing some of it, but
it's a heavy read.
Yeah,
it's not a nice light read. You really got to commit to it. I actually picked it up myself and did some rereading, and I kept referring to the glossary in the back because a lot of the words were just, okay, what the heck is this?
Yeah, right. Well, that's one thing I noticed. So let me start off. Let me first of all say, I don't know who's saying Star Wars is not a science fiction show. That just blows my mind. But I guess you could, I guess that if on the internet, if I held up a white sheet of paper and say, hey, this is a white sheet of paper, you'd have some segment of society saying that's not a white sheet of paper. They would say that's a black sheet of paper. Or so, you just have some segment of society that would argue for no good reason whatsoever. But
you're gonna have naysayers.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you'd have naysayers, and somebody's out there saying Star Wars is not a science fiction movie. I mean, good night. I think that would be the number one answer on Family Feud if somebody said, "What's a good science fiction movie?" It would be Star Wars.
Star Wars. Number one answer.
Yeah, that's
I will. Well, it can go either way. And I was more or less playing devil's advocate. But there's one piece of the equation that I like to throw out, and I didn't come up with this myself. A YouTube sci-fi guru blew my mind with it many years ago, and so I've championed his cause. And all science fiction, or virtually all science fiction, I'm probably going to get a lot of feedback on this one, but here we go, have an element where there's some element of science which has an impact of the story. The most obvious is, let's take the time machine.
Yeah,
Dune invents the time machine. So the scientific advancement is germane to the plot. Perhaps more than others, but it's always there. In Star Wars, with the exception of the Death Star, there is no real element of science which has been introduced into the story arc. In fact, even the Death Star is just they took the technology available and brought it to its logical conclusion. I mean, if you look at the science apparatus they have in the background, well, it's all weathered and used. I mean, the stuff is very, very, very mundane to them. I mean, the lightsaber itself, which, I jumped out of my seat the first time I saw that when I was 10, and to them, the lightsaber is archaic. It's like a rapier in these days. But, to me, I'm like, wow. So the science in the universe of the story isn't altered. And therefore, I always see, well, not always, I have since seen Star Wars as what it is. It's effectively old Kurosawa films brought together and a nice sci-fi backdrop because, well, who doesn't love a good science fiction story?
And of course that, that's going to be the argument with anybody, is they're going to read or define science fiction in a certain way, or define whatever in a certain way, and say, then it doesn't fall into that category. And of course, if you define science fiction as there's a piece of science technology that has to have an impact on the film, then yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Of course, it doesn't do that. But if you just kind of make a broader tent, science fiction is any kind of futuristic or altruistic or stuff that we don't have that's sciencey, then it does. But I see what you're saying. I mean, I do see what you're saying.
If I was still in the video store, I guarantee you I'd put Star Wars in the sci-fi section. I'm not that much of a champion of it. It would definitely end up there.
I think people would be like, where's Star Wars? And you're like, oh, yeah, no, that's over in the samurai section.
In the Kurosawa wall.
In the martial arts section on the wall there. Are you some kind of idiot? What are you looking for Star Wars in the science fiction section for? But let's get to Dune. I kind of want to talk about the first time I saw the movie, and then talk about the differences between the book and the movie. And did you read the book first, or did you see the movie first?
I saw the movie first.
Okay.
I'm one of those. I always see the movie, then fall in love with it, and then take it from there. So yeah, I saw the movie first. Yeah.
I did too. I mean, I think I was, maybe 10 or 12 when it came out. Okay. Just depending upon what year it came out. I was a young kid when it came out. So I really wasn't reading Frank Herbert at the time.
No.
But let me say that I heard that it got a lot. I loved the movie when it came out. I mean, I thought it was great. I thought it was great. It was one of those movies that if I had more money, I would have rented it more often at the video store. But I didn't. But I remember that people got a little that I remember seeing Siskel and Ebert talk about it, and they kind of gave it a bad review, and they said that it was confusing. It was confusing. And I was like, I don't see why it's confusing. It wasn't really that confusing for me, even as a kid. And I remember, the action scenes. I thought it was really cool. I remember the voice technology and them being able to use their voice as as a weapon, with the gun and using it to make explosions. And I remember, the belt that turns into a shield, and the knife fighting that was there. And those were all my earliest memories when it came to Dune. And I thought it was a fantastic show. Now, maybe I didn't understand the plot completely at the time, but, I was thinking of it more of an action show, especially at, 10 or 12 or whatever, however old I was when it came out. How old were you when it came out? What were the things that stuck out in your mind the most?
I was about 17 at the time. And at this point, I would consider myself, I would never call myself a movie snob, but I started looking at movies more mechanically than just, oh man, that was cool.
Okay.
And I remember when I was watching Dune, there was some great elements to it, and I loved the performances. I had a friend he wanted to be the next Siskel and or Ebert, and he trashed it. The thing that bothered him the most was, and I see his point, he thought that the special effects were inconsistent. Some scenes were done very, very well, and some seemed to be phoned in, and that created a very disjointed feel. I've gone to great lengths over the years. The special effects of a movie is like a good marinara sauce on a pasta dish. It enhances it, but you couldn't eat a bowl of it.
Yeah.
So if the special effects are sparse, I can still enjoy it because it's got to have a good central dish, and I thought Dune did. The biggest thing I had about Dune, as far as it being confusing goes, remember I mentioned the back of the book, it has a glossary in it. Some of the actual cinemas, at least the ones in my area, had little glossary sheets that they could hand out to you. God, I wish I had one. That's probably a collector's item now. And It would actually have some of the terms on it. Because, kids see the movie without reading the book. What's this Bene Gesserit thing? What's this Shadakar? It had a lot of terms that they use as though they expected you to know what they were talking about, and you would have if you'd seen if you had read the book. So it had to pare a lot down. So I mean, I thought overall it was good, but I thought the unfortunate paring down of various plot elements and characters hindered it. In fact, if I could go off on a tangent for just 1 second, in the 70s, a good 8 years before the American film came out, I believe he was Argentinian director, and I'm going to butcher his name, Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Yeah.
He's probably best known for doing films like El Topo and Holy Mountain. He wanted to make it, and in the script that he had come up with, if it had actually been shot, it would have been about 7 or 8 hours long, because there was that much material. I mean, the book is over 500 pages, so to do it justice, it would have been a marathon.
Oh yeah.
So it's a balancing act. Do you pare it down to make it 105 minutes like Hollywood wants a film to be?
Yeah.
Or do you make a mega picture and it crashes under its own weight? So
Right.
I think that actually caused some confusion. Like, getting back to the book for just a second, take Faith Russa for a second. He actually is a full-fledged character in the book. In the movie, and don't get me wrong, I thought Sting did a great job, but he has 6 lines, and 5 of them are, "I will kill him." You know?
Right.
So
Right.
it's a really underwritten character in the context of the film.
Yeah.
And
That's for one, there's a movie series out there right now, which I've read the book and seen the movies, and I don't care for the movies. They made them 3 movies out of 1 book. And I thought it was awful. I really thought the movies were not good, and I loved the book. But if there was a book that needed to be more than 1 movie, it's Dune. That's all I have to say.
Yes.
That could have been spread out. Even that first book could have been spread out at least over 2 movies, easily over 2 movies.
You could have very nicely made a trilogy out of it, and I can even see where they might break it up periodically. I mean, you could break the first one with them being overrun in Arrakis. Oh, by the way, I should have said there's going to be spoilers in my review.
Oh yeah,
but right
spoilers.
there, that's 1 film right there, if you ask me.
Well, let me the movie's been out since 85 or 84, so I mean, spoilers ahead, and the book's been out for longer than that. Let me back up for just a second too, and just say when you talk about books versus movie, there really is no it's for me there is no this is better than that. I don't, because for me movies are a different they're a different
medium.
They're a different medium. You cannot just film a book and put everything in it. It would be boring. People would walk out. You would even if you love the book, if somebody just made straight line for line the book into a movie, you would walk out. It would be boring. And so it's a different medium altogether. I think when we think of book versus movie, we have to say, did the movie in its medium do a good and faithful job to the book? And no one's 100%. There's always going to be one, well, I wish I'd had more of this, or I wish I had more of that. It's going to be a grading type scale. But you can't just, everybody's going to say the book's better. Well, of course the book's better. The book's got more content. It's got more behind the scenes stuff. But does that mean that the movie's not a good movie? You know what I mean? That's kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You have to weigh them on their own merit. In fact, the different interpretations of Dune, I think, should be weighed on their own merit. There was a TV series made for the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yes.
And a lot of people like to compare and contrast the 84 film and the TV miniseries. And I think both of them stand up on their own merit. I mean, you might enjoy one more than the other, but I wouldn't say the miniseries is better than the feature film.
Yeah. Let me pause there and just kind of bring it back to the TV series. I didn't care for a whole lot personally, and that was one of those areas in which I wasn't trying to compare it because I thought the TV series did a good job in bringing up things in the book that the first movie didn't bring up. And I thought, oh, that's cool. You know, it's more, I was more thankful for that. But that was one of those situations. I can't remember when it came out exactly, but you know, they did try to do a lot of CGI in that show, and CGI was kind of a newer thing going on at that time. And it just kind of came across to me as a little cheesy, a little too cheesy for me for the TV series. But the movie on its own, if I just saw this movie, I thought anyway, I thought I could just watch this movie. It's dated now. Of course, you're watching it. It looks like something out of the 80s. But I did think that it held up as a medium on its own in itself, if you didn't know that there was a book to it. You know what I mean? I think if you didn't know there was a book and you never read the book, I think you could watch the movie and walk away and understand at least all the essential characters. But then it might
work better.
Yeah, but you layer in the book on top of it, and you start thinking, well, I wish they would have done this. Okay, so let me throw this back at you. Okay, so let me throw this back in your court for just a second and ask you to riff on this. Then you read the book. Okay, you read the book. What did you think then? What kind of thoughts did you have about the book? Did you read the book? Cigar, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I read the book probably a year or two later, and I wasn't going to. You might find this hard to believe. Most of my crew back in these days were also science fiction buffs, and they basically kept saying, "Oh no, you got to read the book. You got to read the book. You got to read the book." So I finally did, almost at their insistence. And the first thing I noticed was things actually made a lot more sense. Because they could be fleshed out better. But the biggest thing that I noticed from the movie to the book is, well, I really preferred the book's interpretation of Baron Harkonnen. In the movie, he's a sort of screaming, meanie sociopath, which, don't get me wrong, is very colorful for a visual medium. But bear in mind, he's supposed to be this very Machiavellian, controlling, manipulative villain, and they sort of portray him as this like the old World War II movies, and he's like the commandant at a prisoner of war camp, and people like that tend not to be very cerebral.
Yes.
So now in the movie they played out is, oh well, he just has good men like Piter and others, and certainly Piter is his chief advisor in the book, but he's a far greater understanding. And in fact, just getting back to the miniseries for 1 second, and I didn't particularly care for the TV miniseries either for a number of reasons, but I loved Ian McNeeson's portrayal of Baron Harkonnen. I thought he was much closer to the book's interpretation. The sort of very subdued string puller. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's fair. I do have to agree that in the movie he does come across as this raving lunatic madman, and you're like, how did this guy get any power at all? And
exactly.
That's not the case in the book. In the book, he's very much a very calculated person. He's not just given over to his whimsome pleasure in any given moment. He actually has he has his head together for the most part. It's off kilter to a degree, but that off kilter to a degree was overexploited in the movie, to say the least.
Yes. I couldn't figure out why I don't use the term went off the rails, but they went in a completely different direction with the weirding way. I mean, in the movie, it's just, well, we manipulate sound to blow up rock. Cool, but not nearly as cool as, oh no, it's more of a martial art where you incorporate your inner mind with your physical ability and can actually almost do Bruce Lee level martial arts just because you can believe you can. And that's sort of that very 70s, mind over matter situation, only in the human physiology. And I thought that could have actually, I lamented the fact that they didn't use that in the movie. exploding rock guns I thought were cool, but I think the weirding way worked much better as a sort of psychological hand-to-hand combat, which in the few cases it was used in the movie, I thought was fairly slick.
Yeah, I thought so too. That's another good point. What's interesting to me is that Paul is 15. That's also, you don't know that unless you read the book. He's
Yes.
in the movie, he looks like he's, mid-20s, somewhere around there.
Early 20s,
early 20s. But in the book, he's 15, which is crazy. And this happens in a lot of books too. We'll have to talk about some other like Ender's Game or something like that, like how much younger he is in the book than he was in the movie. But that'll be for another time. Oh, let me just say this, and then I'll riff on it for a minute, and then I'll throw it back to you as well. One of the things that kind of intrigued me about the book and the difference between the book and the movie is how much more political the book was. And I understand why you wouldn't do that in a movie, but the book is just this. It's just this political intrigue kind of nightmare, every twist and turn where you're just questioning everybody. And then the idea too that Jessica was a suspect as far as a traitor, where in the movie, as I recall in the movie, and I have recently watched it, but memory slip, but in the movie, I don't think she was ever a suspect as far as being a traitor was concerned. Never. Yeah. But in the book, it was a big deal.
Do they even mention that she's a Harkonnen in the movie? I don't think they do.
No, I don't think
that's ever revealed in the movie.
No.
Which is a main plot point in the book.
Yeah.
And yes, and she's revealed as a Harkonnen, and Gurney goes to kill her. Actually goes to kill her because he believes she's the one who betrayed them.
Yeah, right.
And that's kind of, and that whole scene is taken out of the book because it wouldn't, the movie rather, because it wouldn't fit. But yes, the political intrigue and the plans within plans. I thought a lot of that was sanded down for the movie. In fact, Jessica actually reminds me. I'm also something of a history buff.
Okay.
It sort of reminded me of the fall of the Romanovs and Alexandria, the Tsarina, because she was of German ancestry. Many of the peasants thought she was actually a spy for the Germans during the First World War, and that actually came out to haunt her during the Revolution. So yeah, there was a lot of political intrigue that had to be sanded down. For crying out loud, in one of the last segments of the book, the Emperor comes right out to his face and says to Harkonnen, "Were you and Leto working against me the whole time?" And Harkonnen's flabbergasted because he hated Leto. That was his central theme. That was his reason for living. And he's like, "No, of course not. But I was thinking, that intrigue could have actually worked in this book if they had been." So yeah, there was certainly a lot of political intrigue that was sadly left out. And speaking of politics, one of the things when I was reading up on this, one of the reasons why Herbert wanted to use a desert planet, as I'm sure you know, a lot of earlier sci-fi buffs from writers were sort of ahead of the game on the whole, the pollution and the destroying of the of the Earth biosphere. Asimov was one of the champions of Earth Day. Frank Herbert was very ahead of the game, and he envisioned, with the decline of our biosphere, massive dunes just rolling over whole cities. And so on some level, Dune was meant as a cautionary tale about basically saving the planet.
Huh. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't really know that. I do know that that the desert planet was kind of picked because it's an analogy to the Arabian desert and oil and those kind of things.
Yes, and spice, of course, is oil. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, as an analogy, but I didn't know that one. That's interesting. Cool. Yeah. Cool thing to know.
Yeah, I stumbled across that actually while researching the other part. So it's funny how everything just sort of came together. Because of course, they talk about terraforming Arrakis, in Dune. It never actually happens, but they do talk about it. So it just was funny that everything just sort of comes together. Herbert really did his homework when he was writing that book.
Yeah, yes, he did. And I think it's also interesting that you wonder, because this gets into kind of more of a, if it was just an idea for him, or if he had some sympathies towards Muslim people or towards the Arab nation or something like that. Because, in the very much at that time, that the book was written, and really at the time that the movie came out, there was a lot of trepidation, with dealing with that part of the world because of their religious beliefs and because of this. And then, a lot of people don't understand too, that that's a big deal with the Cold War too, how the Arab nations kind of fit in with the Cold War. People don't understand that these days. I mean, just use it, understanding history a little bit more might understand that a little bit more. But basically, we were being friendly with the Arab nation because the Arab nation was being unfriendly with Russia. And we were like, well, if the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of mentality we had with that. But I always wondered because, you never know. I mean, I've had ideas about movies before and they really don't reflect anything upon me personally, but you could be sitting there going, oh, well, this is a nation we normally consider to be a bad guy. You know what? In my story, I'm going to flip it around. They're going to be the good guys. You don't know, but definitely the Harkonnens are I'm saying the name right?
Yes.
Yeah, the Harkonnens.
Yes.
Sometimes when you get several names in a row, I'll start confusing names. I mean, they are the good.
Oh, I'm way ahead of you.
The Harkonnen. What did you think about the whole Harkonnens and how they're divided up? And that really doesn't make it into the movie either. But go ahead.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, and this is they provide visual aids to actually show us both. But it's kind of funny because Caledon. Paul and the Atreides homeworld is this very sort of beautiful pastoral ocean world with big, beautiful, swirling, healthy oceans and islands, and it's almost like a paradise. Whereas Getty Prime, the Harkonnen homeworld, is like something out of an industrialist nightmare. I mean, basically, the entire planet is one giant factory.
Yeah.
And overdeveloped urban area. But of course, they always manage to find rooms for things like, sports centers. Sound familiar? So yes, I've always felt that the Harkonnens were intended, at least at a tongue-in-cheek level, to be Herbert's depiction of Western civilization and just how easy their truth, justice, and the American way can be, I don't know if subverted is the right way of putting it, but sort of modified into, an exploitative power. And you see a lot of that, and not just with America. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of my other posts. My favorite author of all time is Brian Wilson Aldous, and he wrote a number of stories about the sort of post-colonialization period, and about how the European powers basically had to, I guess you would say, atone for various actions that they did in the name of empire building. So you see that. In fact, I don't know, Avatar, which of course is a love letter to post-colonialization, was an amalgam of, if I remember correctly, he said it was his 12 favorite sci-fi books he read when he was a kid. And of course, it looks most of them discuss this idea about the exploited people, persons, aliens, trying to overcome the yoke of exploitation, and just how approachable the exploiters are.
Yes.
I'm not saying they're seen as good guys, but it's that whole, they're just trying to survive. Yeah, but your survival is endangering an entire planet. Well, that's lamentable, but it's really interesting just how easy it is for the good guy to become a bad guy, as you pointed out. So yes, I definitely see the Harkonnens as a sort of as a sort of Western Civ Black Mirror, shall we say?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's a really good way to put it. All right, so let me ask you a couple questions. Question number one: if Dune the movie was just a movie and you had never heard the book, or there was a book never written, it was written as a script, what kind of grade would you have given it as a movie? Pretending that there's not a book. You didn't ever hear the book. You're just watching it as a movie. What kind of grade would you have given it, given the time frame?
Okay, I would have given it a grade based on the performances and the storytelling. It as a microcosmic observation, I would give it a B.
Okay. All right. That sounds fair. I probably would, it's hard because when you see things as a kid, it's different. I would have given it an A at 10. But, if I was 17 back then, I might have given it a B. You know what I mean? But it's hard to tell. You can't
probably B plus, but yes, we'll go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would say that too. All right. So now let's manipulate time a little bit. Now we're talking about sci-fi. Let's manipulate time a little bit. Now, if you were to give the movie a grade now based on the book, based on the fact that it's a movie novel, movieization, however that term is, from the novel of the book, what would be your grade now? What would be your grade then?
To be honest,
yes,
I would actually give it. It would only drop down to, I'd say, a B minus, and I'll tell you why. Because anyone who wants to turn Dune into a feature film, it is such an ambitious project. You get kudo points just for giving it a shot.
Right.
I mean, could have things been fleshed out better? Yes. Were some things that were omitted germane to the plot? Yes. But to be honest, I still say, even having full understanding of the book, I still think the movie holds up well as a. So I'm going to say B minus.
I could not agree with you more. I really could not agree with you more. Now that I've read the book and I watched the movie, it still pretty much holds up to me as a book, as a movieization of a novel. Let me ask you this: what are there's always things in the book that, when we talk about the book, we're like, okay, this detail, and you get this, and this part of the story is so much richer, and this reflects the author, and we go, we all that stuff. If you could choose 1, 2, 3 things in the novel that you wish were in the book, in the book that you wish were in the movie, just 1 to 3. Okay, 1 to 3 things, 3 being the maximum, that you would change, that you would add in there somehow. What would they be?
I have a question of a comparison here. Would you consider my 2 criticisms of the Harkonnens as 1 thing or 2? The fact that I would like the Baron to be more Machiavellian as opposed to more crazy person.
Okay,
and
that's one. That's one.
All right, that's one. And I'll Fade to be a more fleshed out, manipulative, scheming person who was actually, he had his own agenda and not just the 2-dimensional film character. I would have loved to have seen, and I think Sting actually, I've seen in other things, I think he could have done a pretty good job at it, but I would have liked to have seen him as more than just a sort of, he was almost like something out of like an old swashbuckling film. Where he comes out and he has that great knife fight, but there's no dimensionality to him. And to be honest, I think what you really need to have a good film, not just sci-fi, any good film which involves a conflict, is the bad guys have to be solid.
Yes.
I mean, often the bad guys are more solid than the good guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have those 2 alterations I thought could have made it a much better film. Because we would have had more investment in the conflict.
Right. Yeah, it's that. Yes, for sure. Is there a third?
Off the top of my head, it doesn't have to be, but Actually, I'm going to stand at 2. I'm going to stand at 2. There's probably a third one kicking around, but if it was really important, I would have thought of it by now. So I'm going to stand at 2.
Yeah. For me, the one that really, I mean, I agree with you. I think it would have been a much better movie if they would have developed the bad guys a little bit more. I think that would have been good. That would be one for me as well. With both of those. So maybe that would be my 2. I really do think that they missed an opportunity with making Jessica it's in the movie. It's just, well, there's a traitor. He's here somewhere. We don't know who it is. Let's get on with the movie. Let's let's get them onto the desert planet and let them meet the Fremen. And you know what I mean? But I really would have taken more time personally to develop the idea that Jessica was viewed as a potential traitor. I think that would have made much more suspense when the real traitor was finally revealed, because really in the movie, that is one of the places that you're just like, yeah, so what? He's a traitor. Big deal. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, okay. Exactly. All right. There's no reveal there. There's no reveal with that, where I think I would have played that part up a little bit more as far as this whole idea that there's a traitor in our midst, and who is it? We don't know who it is.
I definitely agree with you. I mean, that was such an important part of the book. I could certainly see how that would certainly flavor the movie if they could have done it properly. Yes, I can see that.
Okay, and then what do you hope that they will? What do you hope? I guess it's almost kind of like the same question, but the new movie's coming out. Okay, what do you want to see? Or it is out.
I'm definitely going to watch it. In fact, I'm looking forward to it very much. Going by what I've seen, I think we've actually answered our own question. It's the supporting cast is absolutely outstanding, which I like to interpret. If you're going to throw that much money at the screen, give them solid roles. I mean, you got Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. Okay. You got Zendaya as Shawnee. I mean, you have to actually utilize these people. So hopefully it'll be a more fleshed out storyline as opposed to just the continuing adventures of Paul Atreides. So that might work. One thing, I was reading something on it, and I don't want to misquote it, although I'm going to take a shot at it. It said something about how the role of Jessica has been minimalized for some reason in this film. I wonder, and I don't want to give speculative spoilers here, but I'm going to. I wonder if that might have something to do with your plot development idea. And I won't go any further. I'll let our listeners come up to their own conclusions there. Yeah,
for sure. All right. Well, Thrashpondo, we are moving into a new. I told you at the very beginning of this, and this is the first for my audience. I am going to be doing a new segment of the show with every guest that I have. Okay, and you're my guinea pig. Okay.
Oh, good. I love
it. But here's the new segment of the show. The new segment of the show is favorite video store or favorite video store memories or notable video store nightmares. Anything that happens to you funny relating to a video store, which is a gone by thing. And the reason why I bring this up is there is a new Netflix show documentary called The Last Blockbuster. Yes, there is one Blockbuster left. It's in Oregon.
With Kevin Smith. Yes.
Yeah. And it was a great video, but it also reminded me of what I do here on my channel, and that's talk about growing up and the time that I grew up in. Video stores were a thing. It was part of your life to go to a video store.
It was.
I want everybody who's on my program to tell me at least one video store story. So this is your chance. Tell me one of your favorite video store stories.
Well, it's funny that the segment involves me because one of the things I've mentioned is one of my favorite jobs of all time is I managed a video store for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Not a Yeah, I know, not a rental story. That we sold movies. In fact, that was our catchphrase.
Oh,
We know movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you know the one. You know the one. And I managed that store for 6 years, and they were possibly the best 6 years of my life. And when sell-through video ceased being a thing, well, part of me died, but enough of my nostalgia. But I decided to go with one of those anecdotes.
Okay.
Because what could be more video store than being a video store employee? And I'll never forget our first national convention. It was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we were having all these seminars, and the biggies, Paramount, 20th Century Fox, were having these big press releases of the upcoming titles, and they loved us because we sold so many units for them. And right before this one guy went on, apparently he had said to the district managers, "Does anybody have an employee who knows a lot about movies? I need someone to go up on stage and ask a couple trivia questions." And my district manager apparently said, "Oh, do I have a guy?" So he went, he went, and at this national convention, he went and he found me, and he goes, "Bob, I need you for a minute." I go, "Okay, what's going on?" And they go, "We need to go on stage and ask a couple of really good trivia questions." And I go, "No problem." And then just as they're handing me the mic, the guy leans forward. He says to me, "They have to be something people can answer, nothing too tough." And I froze because I'm like, okay, now the two questions I thought of are something that me and three other people know the answer to. So on the fly, I had to come up with two new questions.
Yes.
And I went up, and there's like 400 people, and everyone's looking at me, and I'm like, okay. And I just rattle off the two questions, and believe it or not, people got them, but they were more challenging than I thought they were. And it was for like 90 seconds, I was the impresario of this event.
Oh.
And people came up to me afterwards and said, "Oh, great question, by the way. Great. Oh, thank you. It was nothing really." And they gave me, and this was cutting edge technology 20 years ago, they gave me a DVD player for my trouble.
Oh,
and I still have the DVD player.
Wow.
I still have that DVD player.
That's pretty nice.
That's my anecdote.
Awesome. Yeah. It's kind of interesting because you say that even the questions that you answer were dumbed down, were hard questions. Do you remember there was a show, and I think it only had 2 seasons of it, but I loved it. It was a game show. It was called Beat the Geeks.
Yes, I remember that show.
Yeah, they had a movie geek, they had a TV geek, and then they had a music geek, and then they had a guest star geek. And
exactly.
Yeah, and that was exactly what they did. They would always, ask the easy questions, but then the geek questions, they would ask them the more difficult ones, because even the difficult ones, they're going to know all the easy ones, in other words. But
yeah.
Well, thank you for being on the program. Please let everybody know where they can reach you and how to get a hold, or not just reach you, not like, "Hey, everybody, hi," but you have a YouTube channel. Let's get it out there. Let's get you some more subscribers.
Thank you.
Yes.
And
go ahead.
It's Thrashpondo Pons, and that's THRASHPONDO, one word. I just wanted to give people a chance to catch up. And then Pons, PONS. And that's my content channel. I actually have a channel that doesn't have any content on it. So if you go to the channel and there's content on it, then you've reached my content channel. And please, and this is a shameless plug for myself, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to match you and get 100.
Yeah, I just barely got that century mark, and we need to push to 1,000. I actually thought about doing a video and saying, "YouTube, will you please monetize, even if it's just a few cents? Something's better than nothing. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for being with me. Stick on the line, Thrashpondo.
It was my pleasure.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. And we will talk afterwards for just a second. So stay on the line. Hey, everyone.
I sure will.
Okay. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Retro Serial. I'm glad you could be joining me wherever you are. If you're listening on podcast, if you're watching it on video, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just glad you're here. Do me the favor, if you're listening to this on audio, please give me a star review, an honest review. It would really mean a lot for me. It helps me in all the algorithms, if you like the content of what's going on here. And also, if you're listening to this and you like the content, we do have a YouTube channel where I do a lot more stuff over on the YouTube channel than just the podcast. That doesn't quite transfer over to only audio. So if you like what we're doing here, you're going to like what we're doing over there. And if you're already over on the YouTube channel, please subscribe. It would definitely mean the world to me. And I will leave a link in the description to Thrashpondo's page, so please subscribe to his page as well. And let's see what else you can do. You can follow the Buy Me a Coffee, where you can part with some of your hard-earned cash to help my YouTube dreams come true. And also share it on your favorite social media, hit the bell notification. I think that's about it. I think that sums up everything. Thank you very much, everyone, and we will catch you again on another episode of Retro Serial.